I'm Sen, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Back to School series. In today's video, we're going to talk about mindset and how having a good, positive mindset is very important to getting the best grades possible. I'll talk you through how you can actually develop a good mindset. By giving you tips on how you can actually improve your mindset, hopefully you'll see the returns coming in the form of better marks, but also just thinking more positively and knowing much more stuff. Now you guys realise that GCSEs and A-levels are very, very different to the other years. The learning is much more independent, and especially at A-level, you have far fewer subjects, but you learn them to much greater depths. And so it's very important that you learn how you can manage your work, but also your actual social life. So with no more chit chat, let's get to how we can actually improve our mindset. Now when it comes to schoolwork, I think we should structure it into 3 main sections. Classwork, or actual time in school, homework, and also your own independent revision. Now each of these different situations require, in my opinion, a different mindset, because the way you learn in each scenario will be slightly different. And so we'll go through each one of these different scenarios and how we can have the best mindset in each one to allow us to be the most productive in each of them. So firstly, let's get to time in school / classwork. We all know that we have to spend time in school. We've got 5 days a week. If we don't go in, we're the ones who will get into trouble, and so we're the ones who will lose. So why not make the most of the time we have in the lessons with other people studying our subject, but also our teacher, who knows quite a lot about the subject. So during lessons, you'll often be exposed to new topics for the first time. Now, in order for you to make the most of it, it's important that you ask questions during class. Whenever you don't understand a concept or how something works, let's say a teacher goes over it too quickly, what's really important is that you put your hand up when it's appropriate and ask a teacher, "Excuse me, miss or mister, I don't know exactly how this works, could you explain please?" Now the most likely situation will be that the other pretty much 20-30 kids in your class didn't get it either. And so by you asking the question, then you're actually helping them as well. It's also a very good idea to start answering questions more proactively in class. Even if you only have a slight idea of what the answer could be, it's better for you to put your hand up and try and interact with the teacher. At the end of the day, in the exams, you'll be answering questions that are similar to what the teacher's asking you anyway. So why not start practicing that in the lesson when the teacher asks you questions? What's the worst that can happen? You're not going to lose any marks, and it's most likely that the teacher will correct you, and so think about it. In the exam, you're most likely not going to make that same mistake again. Teachers will always support you in lessons, and there's pretty much nothing like a silly question. By doing this, you'll have far fewer areas of uncertainty after each class, so that when you do come back to revising it, there are far fewer confusing concepts that you have to get your head around. It's more about taking a more active approach to your learning in class. There's no point to you sitting there for 1 to 2 hours and then leaving the lesson without having understood anything. Even if you need to stay 5 minutes after the lesson and ask a question to sort of help your understanding, do that. No one's going to laugh at you. At the end of the day, you're the person who will get the better grade. Let's move on to homework. How can you have a different mindset to your homework to help you do your homework far quicker, but also to a much better standard? As I mentioned in the first video of this series, during sixth form and even GCSEs, you'll get far more homework than you did back in the younger years. And so it's really important that you find a good approach to your homework that you can use from day one, that you can carry through up until the day of the exams. And the first way to have a better mindset when it comes to homework is to write a checklist of all the homework you get as soon as you get it, and tick things off as you complete the tasks. Next, figure out how you will complete the homework. Where will you find time? You might be rowing, you might be running, you might be going to a music lesson, so where in the week will you find time to do your homework? Some people like to do the homework literally during the free period after the lesson they were set the homework in. Other people like to complete all their homework on the same night that they got it on, and others may prefer doing it on the weekends, because they may spend the evenings revising the concepts and consolidating concepts and preparing for the next day of school. Now for myself, I organise my homework depending on the length of the homework. If it's quite a long task, I like to split it up into 2 or 3 bits, a planning stage, the first write-up, the second write-up, and I sort of spread it across the week. And if it's a shorter task, I like getting it done, let's say during a coffee or when I have a free period between lectures. But at the end of the day, whenever you decide to do your homework, it's important that you've sort of left time for it. Avoid doing homework the night before rushing it, because you won't have time to actually understand what the homework is on. The point of homework is to consolidate your understanding of a topic. Try and do some things on the night you get them, but then leave a few tasks that require a bit more thought for the weekend. This approach will also increase the quality of your homework, because by spending shorter periods of time doing your homework, you'll be giving it more attention, because each time you do the homework, you'll be like, ah, damn it, didn't think of that a day before. Whereas if you spend 3-4 hours doing one task, after like an hour or two, you're going to kind of phase out, and so your productivity will drop quite a lot. Now do note, just to try and do your homework, don't give up on your extracurricular activities. Still try and fit in your volunteering, still try and fit in your piano practice, and still try and go and do some exercise. Your homework can easily be fit around your schedule. Some of you might say, no, I get 4 or 5 hours worth of homework. Or I even spend 4 or 5 hours per night on homework, otherwise I don't finish it. Well, in that case, you should really review how you're going about doing your homework. Are you spending too long on one task and not actually doing it properly? Or are you just getting distracted by your phone every 5 minutes, and so a 1 hour task takes you 2.5 hours? All those things are things you should consider, and maybe if you do consider them and change those habits, you might actually be able to do your homework much faster as well. Now the last situation that you'll be in is your own independent revision. In my opinion, this is the hardest, because in class you have pressure to be there. With homework, you also have some sort of pressure to complete it. Otherwise, you get a detention. But with independent revision, it's all about finding time to do it, because this independent revision is what will get you those top grades. When it comes to doing your own independent revision, this might involve a variety of things. Writing neat notes, making flashcards, doing a few Quizlet questions, drawing diagrams to try and improve your understanding, making revision mind maps. All of these things count as revision. A really good way of structuring a revision is to make a note of topics that you are unsure about as you cover them in school. Certain topics you'll get much faster than others, but there'll be some which you really don't understand the concept of. A good way to identify which parts of the course you found confusing is to think back. In biology last week, if I was to be examined and everything I learned, what would I find the hardest? Respiration and all those cycles. Yeah, better revise that. Brilliant, I found a topic that I now need to revise. So like that, think back and think about it in terms of, if you were to be examined tomorrow, what would you find the most difficult? Because it's those same topics that if you don't revise, you will actually find the most difficult in the exam if you were to have it in a few months. Another important thing to remember to do is to make a list of topics you find confusing throughout the term. This is so that during the holidays, during your vacations, you can spend more time revising those topics you've listed down. Especially those topics you don't have time to actually revise during term time, you can get covered in the holidays. That way, at the end of the holidays, you can be assured that you have at least a decent idea of all the topics that you've covered during that term, instead of knowing 5 topics really well and knowing pretty much nothing about 3 topics. Now when it comes to revision, especially independent revision in the evenings, during the week, but also during the holidays, having a schedule is key. What I recommend is having a list of all the topics that you want to revise and tick them off as you go along. Also, instead of saying to yourself, I want to revise for 10 hours today, think about it differently. Say to yourself, I would like to revise 7 topics in great depth every day. And if I do that, I'll be happy with the work I've done. Some topics might take an hour, others might take you 15 minutes, but at the end of the day, you'll be covering 7 topics each day, guaranteed, if you stick to it. I'm going to sit down and revise all of photosynthesis before going for my coffee or tea. That will be much more of a realistic goal, and one that I'm more likely to complete. And then I could say, after I come back, I'm going to do all of the transition metal colours and memorize those. Again, very realistic, and there's no time limit set. If you try and plan your work in hour schedules, things won't work out often, because unexpectedly, your cousins might visit, or your friends might want to go out with you, or you may be going out to dinner with parents. So it's really hard to say, I'm going to have 10 hours free every day. If you go by the topic-based system, you can try and finish 2 topics in the morning, then maybe 1 topic when you're home for an hour, then another 3 topics in the evening, then 1 topic before you sleep. And you'll have a vague idea of which topics you can fit in during which parts of the day. And that, I think, will be much more effective. So in conclusion, I've gone through the 3 different situations you're going to be in. In class, doing homework, and also organising your own independent revision. Hopefully the tips I've given you will help you hit the ground running, and hopefully it will help you make the most of every day that you're spending at school but also at home. If you try and get into these habits now, during your A-levels, not only will you smash your A-levels, you'll also set yourself up very well for university. I'd like to thank all of you watching. I really appreciate all your support, and I hope you're looking forward to episode 3 of the Back to School series. Keep working hard, keep smashing those goals, and I will see you soon in the next video. Take care, guys.